And check it out. And somebody's looking at the camera. How's it going, Lucy? Good morning. How are you? You have a good breakfast? I didn't have breakfast yet. I'm trying to do the fasting thing. Not like all day. That'd be ridiculous. But I'm doing the fasting thing for it's not ridiculous. I mean, people can do it. I can't do it. But I'm doing the fasting thing for like I try to make sure I get at least 12 hours in. So anyway, yeah, that's what I'm working on. We're a little early today. Apologies for that. But that's just how it happened. That's just that's just how it happened. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everybody is ready to get their news on. You guys sent a lot of stuff. We're not going to be able to get to everything, but we're going to get to as much as we can. Because that's how we do things here. We'll get to as much as we can. Lucy just laid across the desk, which she does sometimes. Sometimes when she does that, the lower third blocks her out. Not this time, though. Right? She's so chill this morning. I mean, she's pretty chill every morning, but this morning in particular, she's especially chill, hanging out, doing her thing. So, right on. All right. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles, you send me ideas. That's how we build the show. You guys sent a lot today. We're not going to get to all of it, but we're going to get to some of it. First of all, the song of the day. So Edwin recommended that the song of the day be the Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I oblige. I think that's a fun idea. So today's song of the day, Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Why is Time Warp from... my chair's all weird. My chair was... All right, there we go. That's better. Why is Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show today's song of the day? Well, if you noticed, yesterday on Twitter, Susan Sarandon was trending. Why was Susan Sarandon trending? Well, because even though it's been 3 years, folks are still blaming her for Donald Trump. Susan Sarandon, an actress who shows up at protests, who stands up for causes, and who has an opinion, it's her fault that Donald Trump is president, according to some people on Twitter who are still going with this. It's 3 years later. 3 years later, she was trending on Twitter. You know what? When I first saw that Susan Sarandon was trending on Twitter, I was like, there's no way they're still on this lazy, ridiculous scapegoat thing. She's got to be trending for a different reason. I thought maybe she had a new movie out. I thought maybe it was solely because of the softball game in Iowa that she was participating in. No, it was actually Neera Tanden and, the Mick Resistance Twitter blaming her for Trump again. So I tweeted out, if Susan Sarandon was half as powerful as some people make her out to be, the Time Warp would be the national anthem by now, which some folks tweeted me and said, Ron, that would actually be a really good idea. To which I agree. That would be an awesome idea. I would be all about, could you imagine? Now, here's the thing. If the Time Warp was the national anthem and it was played at sporting events, doing the Time Warp in the bleachers would be very difficult. There would be a lot of people would fall. A lot of people would get injured. So, you wouldn't actually be, it's just a jump to the left. That'd be hard to do in the bleachers at a sporting event. Funny, but very difficult. You would have to do a very abbreviated Time Warp. If you were doing it in the bleachers at a sporting event, you would have to be very subtle and mindful with your pelvic thrust. The pelvic thrust drives you insane. Yay. Got to be careful there. Don't interrupt your neighbor. Don't intrude on your neighbor with said pelvic thrust. Be considerate. Be generous. Don't be overreaching there. Literally. So the Time Warp. So anyway, that's the song of the day. Everyone suggested Time Warp is the song of the day. I wonder when they'll stop blaming an actress for Donald Trump. Welcome to the United States, where people blame an actress for an actor being president. It's actually pretty generous calling Donald Trump an actor. So I guess welcome to the United States, where we blame an actress for a game show host being president. That's more accurate. Reality TV guy, whatever you want to call it. All right. So let's go to this doozy. We're going to start today over at MSNBC. So some of you guys know this. Joe Biden isn't really doing events right now. He's kind of staying out of the spotlight. Why is that the case? That's the case because his campaign already knows he is incapable of raising his poll numbers, meaning whenever he talks, people like him less. The more Joe Biden talks, the less people like him, the less people want to vote for him. Last time we ran a Democrat against Trump who has that same problem, what happened? I'll give you a hint. Trump won. Hillary Clinton, same issue. She was incapable of raising her poll numbers. Every time she spoke, people liked her less. That was the case in any race she's ever been in. That was the case in 2008. She starts higher than she finishes because the more she speaks, the less people like her. Joe Biden has that same problem. Joe Biden, the more he talks, the less people like him, especially when he makes 1.5 million racist gaffes an hour. So they decided to have his wife speak for him. Here's Dr. Joe Biden, Joe Biden's wife. Here's what she has to say. This is quite a doozy. Ready for this?
So yes, your candidate might be better on, I don't know, healthcare.
Oh, she does know. She does know. She just admits his healthcare plan is garbage. Oh, your candidate might be better than, I don't know, healthcare. Just picking a small issue here. Just picking a small, tiny issue where, thousands and thousands of people die every year in the richest country in the world because they don't have adequate health care, where people go bankrupt over medical bills more than any other reason in the richest country in the world. Just picking that small. Maybe your candidate's a little better on health care than Joe. Tomato, tomato. This candidate's going to make sure you get health care. This Joe doesn't care. Joe's not going to get you health care. But, okay, so right out of the gate, starting strong. What an endorsement. Maybe one of the biggest domestic issues, arguably the biggest domestic issue facing our country. Maybe there's a lot of candidates better than Joe. And by maybe, I mean definitely. There's one candidate better than Joe. The rest of them are just as terrible. But Bernie Sanders, better than Joe. All right.
Than Joe is. But you've got to look at who's going to win this election. And maybe you have to swallow a little bit and say, okay, I personally like so-and-so better. But your bottom line has to be that you have.
Where else do we apply this kind of logic? So I get it that Joe's not the most likable. I get it that Joe doesn't have policies that excites anybody. I get all that. But we have to think, who's going to beat Trump? Gee, maybe if somebody is totally uninspiring and nobody likes them, you can sit on my lap or you can just bounce. No, she decided to just bounce. I thought she was just going to come onto my lap. She was like, I'm so over Joe Biden. He needs to just drop out. I'm so over him. Lucy always bails when we talk about horrible politicians. You ever notice that? Like yesterday when we were talking about John Delaney, she bailed. Today, Joe Biden, she bailed. Interesting. If we talk about Bernie or Tulsi, will she come back? That's the $1 million question. We'll see. I don't know if we're going to be talking about either one of them much today based on what's in the docket. But anyway, where else do you apply this logic that, hey, I know this candidate's not exciting, doesn't have policies that excite people, you don't like them, but they're our best shot at beating Trump? Where else would this logic apply? Where else would you see a quarterback's wife get on national television being like, look, I know that my husband does not have the highest passer rating on this team. I know that he throws a lot of interceptions. I know that he does not always make the smartest decisions on what play to run at which time, and he sometimes goes against the coach's wishes on that as well. I know he can't really run. He's not mobile at all. I know he's even fumbled a few handoffs. But we have to think about what's our best chance to beat this other team. and it's my husband. Why? Why? You just said how he sucks on everything. Maybe if a candidate's horrible on everything and the base doesn't like them, they're not going to go on to win in the general. I know we entertain this fantasy that people in the heartland are just going, oh, please give us something shitty. We want something bad. But guess what? That's not true, because Bernie Sanders goes there and he gets standing ovation. Hillary Clinton, they wouldn't vote for her. The heartland wouldn't vote for her because they remembered NAFTA, because they don't want the TPP, because they know what fracking's done to their communities, because they wanted some real solutions for the economic crises that they're facing in their communities. Donald Trump gave them lies. She gave them nothing. So they took a chance on the lies, or they stayed home. They did not show up because Hillary Clinton was too far left. On what planet would Hillary Clinton be too far left? First of all, that'd be a country even more conservative than this one. All right, let's go on to this ringing endorsement here.
Because I know that not all of you are committed to my husband.
That's an understatement.
And I respect that. But
glad I have your respect. Glad I have your respect. That's I don't know. I have not been sleeping for weeks, actually, and I was just like, I wonder if Joe Biden respects me. I care what Joe thinks, so I really care what Joe thinks too. The entire Biden family, I really hope I have their approval. How condescending. I respect that. I respect that not all of you have listened to my husband speak and you realize how awful he is. I respect that you realize that my husband has more baggage than the Atlanta airport and you think he's probably a terrible candidate. I respect the fact that you don't want to see a debate season in the general election where it's just two old racist white men debate about who is the more old racist white man. I respect that. I respect that you think we deserve better than that, but I'm here to tell you, you don't deserve better than that. I'm really rich, and I'm here to tell you, you don't deserve better than two old racist white men who aren't going to do anything for you. You don't deserve better than that. Joe Biden.
I want you to think about your candidate, his or her electability, and who's going to win this race. And so
Bernie Sanders leading Trump in every poll. Bernie Sanders gets standing ovations in the heartland. Bernie Sanders, when he talks about Medicare for all on Fox News, people stand up and applaud, much to their chagrin.
if you're looking at that, you've got to look at the polls. And, a lot of times I say, polls don't mean anything. Polls don't mean anything. But if they're consistent and they're consistently saying the same thing.
This is a woman who was put up to this by her husband and by his campaign. And now she is just pulling stuff out of the air. Oh, if the polls are consistent, what polls are you referring to? The ones that are cherry-picked by the DNC, that are conducted on landlines and excludes most people. Those polls, if they're consistent, we have to. Joe's our best chance. I know he's not a good candidate. I know he doesn't have good policies. I know people don't like him. But he's our best shot to beat Trump. Based on what? Here, you know what? Let's fast. I can't watch this whole thing. Okay, all right. So here you go. So her goal is to beat Donald Trump. She says this.
To beat Donald Trump, we have to have someone who can beat him. And so if you look at the polls, if you look at Joe with his record with independents, we can't just have Democrats who are going to win. We have to include everybody. Our party has to be more inclusive. Unless
you're progressive, then we don't want you there. Yeah, the Democrats need to be more inclusive, as long as you're more conservative than Joe Biden, which is really hard to do. But then we really want to bring you in. That's what she means. We need to appeal to people on the right. That's what she's saying. We need to be more like Republicans so that donor money can keep flowing in.
Which means we have to go to independents and say, join us. We have to go to Republicans and say, okay, you're a Republican, but you can't tell me that your children are proud of the president, of the things he says.
Right. Yeah, Donald Trump talks mean, so let's get somebody who will talk polite sometimes. Joe Biden, Joe Biden already has skeletons in his closet just this campaign season alone. Is it should children be proud? Jill Biden, should children be proud when they hear Joe Biden say that poor kids can be just as smart as white kids? Should they be proud of the president when he says that? Were you proud of that moment, Jill? Was that a moment to be proud of? So ridiculous.
You can't, as a mother or as a father.
Okay. Oh, and now we're playing as a parent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because people who aren't parents, they don't get a say in this. They don't have an opinion. All right, that's enough. So that's Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden, who was put up to this. I guarantee this was not her idea, and she's just BSing for 2 minutes about Joe Biden's electability, and she's basing it off of a couple cherry-picked polls by the DNC. That's her only argument here. If you look at the polls, I know Joe's not good on policy. I know a lot of you don't like him. I know he's incapable of raising his poll numbers. The more he talks, the less people like him. But we cherry-picked these few polls here that are relying on his name recognition, and according to them, he's the front runner. He's our best shot at beating Trump. This is just lies. And I guarantee you Joe Biden would lose handily to Trump. Joe Biden would get crushed in a general against Donald Trump because the status quo already lost to Donald Trump. And here's somebody with even more baggage. Joe Biden somehow arguably has even more baggage than Hillary Clinton, especially if you look at sound bites. I mean, this guy's already had a million missteps, and we're not even out of the primary yet. Joe Biden. All right. So what a ringing endorsement. And again, where else would something like this ever happen? Like, where else would you ever see something like this where it's like, hey, I'm going to speak for my husband. We don't want him to speak for himself because he's really bad at raising his poll numbers. But, I know he's not good on anything, but he's probably our best chance to beat Trump. I'm basing this off of a few cherry-picked polls. Could you imagine a guy's in a band and his wife goes on and she's like, hey, my husband's band, I really want you to go to the show. I know that his songs are kind of lame. I know that whenever you hear him play music, you like him less. I know that he doesn't really have he's actually totally tone deaf, really. Like, he can't tune his guitar. He can't really sing that well. But he's our best chance at selling out Madison Square Garden. He's our best chance. Hey, we got to start my husband here. My husband's got to be the starting point guard. I know that he is useless from the three-point line. I know that he is about 20% from the foul line. I know that he doesn't run decent plays on the court. I know that he's useless on defense, but he is our best chance at beating LeBron. Your husband didn't even play college basketball. I know, but I, if you look at the polls that I made myself that consisted of just me calling his family members, he's got to start here. This makes the same amount of sense as all those examples I just gave. Joe Biden's wife talking about how he's electable while simultaneously talking about how he's a terrible candidate. Maybe if somebody's a terrible candidate, it means they're not going to win. Maybe if you have someone who doesn't even excite the base, that should be a barrier to entry. Do you excite the base? No, then you're out. Get someone who excites the base. And if they excite the base, guess what? They're going to connect with independents. They're going to connect with non-conventional voters. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said something along these lines, and I'm paraphrasing here, and I think it was a very intelligent thing to say. She said, look, it's not about reaching Republican voters. It's about reaching non-traditional voters, people who don't usually vote. And you know who has had great success doing that? Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. That's who. Both of them are as far from Joe Biden as you can get. All right. So speaking of polls, here's a change.org petition that R. Hartwell shared over on the Reddit. I wanted to share it today. And if this is of interest to you, you can go check it out. So this is a change.org petition to include Economist, Emerson, and Suffolk polls for the DNC debates. All right, so what are they saying here? We voters ask that you include polls from The Economist, Emerson, and Suffolk for the September and October DNC debates. Since the end of the July debates, only a handful of polls have been released, far fewer than what was previously being released. We ask that these polls be included, so Secretary Julian Castro and Representative Tulsi Gabbard be included in the debates. All right, now, so they're almost there. They want to get 15,000. They have 14,043 so far. So if that is of interest to you, go to change.org, sign that petition. Again, it is to include Economist, Emerson, Suffolk polls for the DNC debates. That's include Economist, Emerson, Suffolk polls for the DNC debate over at change.org. Now, just for conversation's sake, you know what? I get the point of this petition, and I think it's a good thing. I want more people included in the debates, not less. But I think we should just not include polls completely. I think that if your candidate meets the independent threshold, they should be able to participate in the debate. If they follow the protocol, and I get it, they gotta, they gotta be with the party and stuff like that. Okay, whatever, that's fine. Bernie did what he had to do that. As did everyone else. That's fine. But if they have the amount of support, if they have the amount of grassroots support, they have the amount of individual donors, that means regular people giving them money saying we want to see you in the debate, they should be in the debate. They screwed Gravel out of the debates. They're trying to screw Tulsi out of the debates. And here's the thing. We cannot have Bernie be the only progressive up there. My throat's really dry today. I apologize for that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on today, but I'm flubbing over words a bunch. It's because my throat's dry. A couple people just left the stream because I took a sip of water. That's harsh. They're like, you do not get to hydrate. I want to get my news immediately. I do not have time for your hydration. I just stumble over the words. I don't care. Flub it. I'm out. I'm out. You need water? I said good day, sir. Anyway, all right, so there's that change.org petition. But yeah, I think all these polls are handpicked and cherry-picked by the DNC. And so many polls. Has anyone here, and by the way, leave your answers in the chat. And when we go to the chat later, after all the stories are over, I'm curious to see the answer. Who here has been polled ever? Leave your answer. I want to go through these answers. I have never been polled. Oh, wait, no. I take that back. I was polled one time, and it was only because they called. It was when I was living with my parents. Well, I wasn't living there. It was the summer in between college semesters, so I was home for the summer. I think I was like maybe 19. Actually, it might have been before college even. It's not important. But I was at my parents' house. They called the landline. And, I'm from Pennsylvania. It was when Rick Santorum. Okay, so I would have been about 20 or so, because I think it was when Rick Santorum finally got beat, which I believe was 2006. So anyway, this isn't important, but it was about Rick. And I remember at the time I was super, super against. Well, I still am. Why am I saying at the time? Still am super against Rick Santorum. And they were just like, would you vote for Rick Santorum? And I said something like, I would vote for a thing of fecal matter before I voted for Rick Santorum or something like that. I said something to that effect. Like I would vote for blah, 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 before I vote for Rick Santorum. And they were like, does that mean you're not going to vote for him? And I was like, yes, that means I'm not going to vote for him. I guess they needed a straight up yes or no, which I did give them. But anyway, that was the only time I was polled. And the only reason they said, are you the head of household? And I just said, yes. I just said yes because I assumed it was a telemarketer or something like that. And I just wanted to, just get off the phone as quickly as possible. I didn't want to inconvenience my dad or my mom. So they were like, you the head of household? I just said yes. That's another thing that they'll do on those things. They'll ask for the head of household. Why? Because it's likely to be, if it's not the head of household, first of all, they don't want to talk to children. And I understand that. You can't just be polling, like a 9-year-old who answered the phone or whatever else. And I don't know if that still happens, by the way. Does that still, in our day and age, everybody has a cell phone. Landlines are seldomly used. So when a landline does ring, if there's a family and they have kids, will that kid answer? I don't even know if that happens. I used to answer the phone because I thought it might be for me, right? I mean, that would be why we would answer. I'm just old enough to know, like, I remember the pre-cell phone world where nobody really had a cell phone, or if somebody did, it was like a big deal and they never used it. They had it and they're like, I got this thing. It's the size of a brick and it's about as heavy as one. And if I make a call, it costs me $45. But it's a cell phone in case of emergencies. Now, of course, payphones were still everywhere. So you would just go and pop in a quarter and use a payphone. Then they made payphones more than a quarter, which was a big pain in the ass. But anyway, so I wonder if that still happens. I don't know. I don't have kids, nor do I have a landline. I have neither of those two things. Don't have a landline, don't have kids. So I don't know the answer to any of those questions. I have no clue. But anyway, yeah, so I get it. They don't want to talk to a kid, but they also want to make sure they talk to the person who is likely the oldest and likely the richest. But anyway, so I just said yes, and then they pulled me about Rick Santorum. That's the only time. And it was just because they thought they were talking to my dad. They didn't even want to talk to me. They asked for head of household. That wasn't me. But I just said it was because I figured it was a telemarketer and I would just get them off the phone. And then they were like, we're conducting a survey for the election. I was like, oh, I'm so in. So I took the survey. And my dad was not a Rick Santorum fan either. So I don't think, I'm sure his answers would have been similar. Anyway. All right. So I just don't think if you register the company way, play it the company way, you get the amount of unique donors, you should be in the debates, period. That's what I think. I don't think any polls should play a role. I think they screwed Mike Gravel out of the debates. They're trying to screw Tulsi Gabbard out of the debates. And this is nothing new. If you're an actual peace candidate, they try to get you off stage as soon as possible. That's why they made a bunch of rules up in 2008 to make sure that Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul were off that debate stage as soon as they can get them off. And it worked. They got Dennis Kucinich off. They got Ron Paul off. All right. So, and they're doing it again. They are doing it again. So, we talked about John Delaney and how, he uses his Twitter account to brag about how he lies to old people. Here is something. So, John Delaney, yesterday we were talking about, he has spent $24 million on his campaign. And the only reason he's out there is because he has money in health insurance stock. So maybe John Delaney, I mean, first of all, morally, that is just so disgusting on so many levels. I mean, this is a level of greed that is truly repulsive and truly gross. This man is spending so much time and energy and resources and money to just make sure people don't have health care because of his own stock options. If we get Medicare for all and his stock and health insurance goes down, he'll just invest it somewhere else and he'll still be rich. He'll still be very rich. The man has millions and millions and millions of dollars. But he's so greedy that he's doing all this. He's humiliating himself. His name is going to be tarnished forever. Or at least as long as people remember it. I mean, he has tarnished his own name. Because it's embarrassing what he's doing. How embarrassing is it? Well, here, I'll tell you. Check this out. John Delaney draws 11 people to a 2020 event. Millions of dollars, $24 million. 11 people show up. $24 million. Anybody watching this right now, if I gave you $24 million and said, go run for president, you would do better than 11 people. That's how not likable this man's ideas are and how people see through him. And that he's only on this stage to try to take help, to make sure people don't get health care. That's his goal. To protect his own stock options. But no matter what happens, he's still going to be rich. He's still going to be rich the rest of his life. His children will never need or want anything. Their children will never need or want anything. He's going to be rich for generations. Yet he's so greedy that anything that threatens a little bit of his stock, and by the way, compared to all of his assets, health insurance stock is just a little piece of the pie for this guy. But he's that greedy. That's truly sick. It's truly sick. And he draws 11 people. Because there's enough people in this country, they see through it. 11 people. $24 million. With $1 million. I think everybody watching this stream right now, you could get more than 11 people. If I gave you $1 million, I said run for president, you got in. And by the way, this guy has gotten tons of bumps. He just got to go on MSNBC this very morning, I'm pretty certain. He's gotten bumps from the debates where he gets booed. All of this exposure on media. And 11 people. 11 people. All right, so let's go to this article. John Delaney draws 11 people to 2020 event, and the author of this piece, Adam Gabat, here at The Guardian, asked the question, does he truly think he can win? Well, does he? Does he truly think he can win? The former congressman has put $24 million of his own cash into an increasingly chaotic presidential run, and he's plowing on despite a near total lack of support. John Delaney has poured a staggering $24 million of his own money into running for president. He has been campaigning for the White House for more than 2 years, and in that time has held more than 200 events in Iowa. On one recent Thursday morning, these efforts translated into a grand total of 11 people. Wow. So to answer that question, does he truly think he can win? I think he does entertain some fantasy. He has a chance here, because otherwise, why is he doing this? His main concern is making sure people don't get health care. His main concern is making sure Medicare for all never happens. There's pretty much every other candidate to make that a reality, John Delaney. Virtually every, Beto O'Rourke, Joe Biden, Klobuchar, Kristen Gillibrand, Kamala Harris. We're going to get to that next. There's so many people. Pretty much every other candidate, almost every other candidate is against Medicare for all. They're going to make sure it doesn't happen if they get into office. Why do they need you? If you're going to be on the debate stage, why just be another establishment hack? We have tons of establishment hacks. Why do you need to be another one? I mean, Marianne Williamson brings a unique perspective to the table. She wants a Department of Peace. I don't agree with her on everything, but she at least brings a unique perspective to the table. Same with Andrew Yang. I don't agree with him on everything. He has some kind of cool ideas, some kind of not so cool ideas, but he at least brings something different to the table. That's why he's up there. Tulsi Gabbard, same scenario. Brings something unique to the table. Non-interventionist, an actual peace candidate. That's why they're trying to get her off the debate stage as soon as they can. But all the other candidates, except for Bernie Sanders, of course, just fly by night. It's all the same stuff. It's all status quo nonsense. Why do we need you? John Hickenlooper realized there's enough of me on there. I can just drop out. John Delaney hasn't had that realization yet. He must entertain some fantasy that he can actually win. And he can't. He does not have a chance in hell. He will get booed off of the stage continually. His ideas are about as likable as a hemorrhoid. And it's amazing that somebody would put that amount of resources and that amount of money into a presidential campaign to make sure sick people can't get health care. That's incredible. All to protect their own stock, which, by the way, he has about 24 million in assets. He has about 3 of that in health insurance stock. 24 million, 3 in health insurance stock. He could have spent all this time finding something else to invest in. He could have invested in a green energy startup. He could have invested into solar or wind and started an organization for sustainable energy. He could have invested in a restaurant. He could have, he could have invested that into his children's futures. Given it to them. Start an entrepreneurial fund for his kids. Take it out of health insurance. Be like, hey, I think our society is going to change when it comes to health insurance. I'm going to give this money to you. And what I want you to do is I want you to pursue your dreams with it, whatever that may be, but you have to do something productive with it. You have to put it towards your career, whatever that is. And he's still going to be rich. He's still going to be rich. I can think of a million more productive things he could have done. He could have just taken that money out, done a million more productive things with it. Instead, he ran for president so he can keep sick people from getting health care. Man. Wow. It's just sad. That is just sad. And this next news is also kind of sad, but should come as a surprise to nobody. Kamala Harris no longer supports Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. Remember when she said it? Remember when she said, I support Medicare for all? Somebody should tell my staff. She sounded like she was in a confessional booth. She's like, I think it's the right thing to do to make sure everyone has health care. I know you're thinking, don't you just want to throw people in jail? What if you just they get medical care in jail, right? Why don't we just throw everybody in jail who doesn't have health care? Oh, wait, I didn't think of that. We can make it a felony to not have health care, then I could throw them in jail. That would be the health care plan we would get if Kamala Harris is president, by the way. You don't buy health care, that's a felony. She's going to throw you in jail. Either buy health care through the marketplace, give the insurance company your money, or she's throwing you in jail. That would be her plan. Because you get medical. You'll get medical care in jail. All right, but anyway, let's see the mental gymnastics Kamala Harris did to backpedal once again. Kamala Harris no longer supports Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. California Senator and 2020 presidential candidate Kamala Harris backpedals more than an employee at a bike repair shop. And she's backing away from Medicare for All just 2 years after she co-sponsored the bill in the Senate. Speaking at a Hamptons fundraiser to corporate executives and one percenters, Harris explained that she has not been comfortable with the healthcare plan written by her 2020 competitor, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Basically, she has a private position and a public one, and don't worry, you're going to get the private one if she's in office. And hey, you executives, you probably have money in health insurance stock. You're probably tied up with big pharma. Don't worry, I got your back. That's what she's saying. This should come as a surprise to nobody. This is who she is. This is who Kamala Harris is. This is who Kristen Gillibrand is. This is who Amy Klobuchar is. This is who Joe Biden is. This is who Pete Buttigieg is. This is who they are. This is who Beto O'Rourke is. We're going to get to Beto O'Rourke next because that guy's a true clown. And we're going to talk about something else dumb that he's doing. This is who they are. This is why you can't trust any politician that takes corporate money. By the way, Elizabeth Warren said she's going to take it. She's going to take corporate money but Trump, which I tweeted about that years ago. They're going to not take it during the primary, and then during the general, they're going to say but Trump, and they're going to take corporate money and do their corporate overlords bidding. Cory Booker, same deal. So Kamala Harris, not for Medicare for All now. Oh, and by the way, she was one of the people on the stage who said she would, abolish private insurance. When they asked that question, she raised her hand along with Bernie Sanders. She later claimed that her response was misinterpreted. It was misinterpreted. Unbelievable. Well, actually, it's totally believable. Why am I saying unbelievable? It's unbelievable we tolerate this. It's unbelievable that we just accept this as the way it is. But that's what happens when you have two parties who are owned by the same people. And by people, I mean the donor class in Wall Street. You have two parties that are owned by Wall Street. One is a fascist right-wing party. One is at best, center right-wing party. That's what you get. You get cops who backpedal on everything that they once promised. Kamala Harris. The only time she's ever stood firm on something is when it involves throwing people who use pot in jail. It's the only time she's been firm on anything. Or when it comes to not punishing a banker. That's when you can count on her. All right. So, Beto O'Rourke, stand on something, stand for nothing. He usually stands for absolutely nothing. Here he is standing for something, and lo and behold, it's the wrong thing. So, facial recognition has been a concern in the tech world. Another big concern in the tech world is the accountability of social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google, they've been censoring different entities, and this calls into a big question of, are they upholding the free speech laws of the United States? They're technically private companies, so they can kind of do whatever they want. Gee, that presents a real slippery slope now, doesn't it? So I guess any content they don't like, they can just take down. That's kind of concerning because this has become the electronic public square in our lives. The solution to this would be to designate these entities as public utilities and have an elected oversight board who would oversee this stuff. And they would be free speech professionals, and nobody's speech would be taken down unless it violates the free speech laws of the United States, because it is an electronic town square. And if somebody says something you don't like, you can respond to it, or you can have better speech. But there's been all kinds of different proposals out there to solve this issue. And Donald Trump has an executive order that would make the matter significantly worse. Donald Trump's executive order would just give the government, whoever's in charge, overreaching authoritarianism to just nix these social media platforms out. Facebook says something, and it revamps the Communications Decency Act, which allows people to kind of post stuff at will in a free and open internet. All right, so here's Beto O'Rourke talking about this, and he gets it completely wrong. All right, here's a tweet from Fight for the Future. This proposal from Beto O'Rourke is deeply misguided. We can and should pressure big platforms to do a better and more transparent job when it comes to content moderation, but allowing the government to control what speech is allowed online is dangerous. All right, so here's what Beto O'Rourke is calling for and why it's absolutely ridiculous. Because he totally misses the mark here. And it's because he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to pretty much anything except for how do we make the oil and gas companies happy? All right, so here's Beto O'Rourke's dumb idea. Beto O'Rourke proposes holding tech platforms accountable for hate speech. Okay. Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke released a sweeping gun violence prevention plan on Friday, proposing a set of changes that he said could connect to blah, blah, blah. All right. The former Texas congressman's plan will require top social media companies to remove hateful content from their websites, opening up the companies to lawsuits if they fail to do so. As it stands, under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, known as Tech's Legal Shield, websites largely are not liable for their content moderation decisions and what users post on their platforms. O'Rourke's proposal would remove Section 230 protections for platforms that do not make an effort to create and uphold policies against hate speech. Okay, so why is this a bad idea? Here's why this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea because now you're holding Facebook and Twitter directly responsible, and it's the government deciding whether or not they have violated something. How will social media platforms respond to this? They're just going to have overreaching censorship of content. So if you're talking about racism in a commentary sense, they're just going to censor you. If you're talking about racism because you are a racist, they're also going to censor you. If you're talking about news and politics, they're going to censor you. They're just going to have overreaching authoritarian censorship on their platforms because they don't want to get sued. Because they don't really care about people sharing ideas or information. They don't care about that. They care about marketing. They care about selling your information to third-party advertisers. That's what Facebook is for. So they'll just start censoring things willy-nilly because they're concerned about lawsuits. This is not the answer. Furthermore, transferring authoritarian overreach when it comes to online censorship from Silicon Valley to the government, also not a good idea. There shouldn't be authoritarian censorship to censor the internet. There should be free speech laws upheld by elected boards and designating these things public utilities. The problem is technology has outpaced the law. That's the problem. The law has not caught up with technology. We have certain needs. Technology is here. The law is here. So we need to have a new digital bill of rights. And that should not include giving Silicon Valley the will to do whatever they want when their platforms have become the new electronic town squares. It should also not include the government having overreaching authoritarian censorship over social media platforms or any other entity when it comes to content on the internet. The CDA should be upheld. That's why Trump's executive order is terrible, and O'Rourke's idea is also terrible, and they're quite similar, by the way. So Beto O'Rourke, stand on something, stand for nothing. He finally stood for something, and it was a swing and a miss. Big surprise. Good job, Beto. Good job. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. And that is how we'll end the show. I'm curious to see if anyone's been polled. I'm curious to see that. And that is what we'll find out. By the way, shout out to our sponsors, et.com, zhitea.com. Their T kind of rules. You know the drill. Let's see here. Did I do the wrong? Oh, no, I did not. Okay, cool. Let me scroll down here. Ooh. George Allen, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Bad Religion is cool, Ron. I agree. They're a great band. If you get a chance, check out their Guitar Center gig on YouTube. Cool. I've probably watched it before. I watch a lot of their live stuff, but I will check it out. Thank you for that shout out, George Allen. Shout out to Bad Religion. They were yesterday's song of the day. If you've never listened to Bad Religion, start with American Jesus and go from there. If you have listened to Bad Religion, what can you do? From the Suffer album. What can you do? You can listen to them more. That's what you can. Tom Myers, thank you for the super chat contribution. Give debates back to the League of Women Voters. I do think that, the corporate media should not be allowed to sponsor debates. I do believe that thoroughly, too. Michael Karasich, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. I have never been personally polled outside of my parents' landline. I went to college in Iowa, so my parents get extra harassed. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Balthazar, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. To be fair, 11 people is an amazing turnout for him. That's referring to John Delaney. George Allen, send me the check, Ron. Hippie for President 2020. You got it. Slow News Day has been polled once, and it was on a landline. Analime, never been polled. 43 years old, never been polled. And Daniel gives a shout out to Bad Religion and their greatest hits album, All Ages. And keep in mind, today's song of the day was Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because people are still blaming the all-powerful Susan Sarandon, the actress with an opinion. Anyway, guys, tour dates, I got them. First of all, Los Angeles, folks, this week, Ron Placone and Friends is happening on Thursday. That's 2 days from now. Thursday, 7:30 p.m. at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. Email me at ronplacone.com. Go to ronplacone.com and email me right now, and I'll put you on the guest list for that show. Say you saw it on Get Your News On with Ron. I'll put you on the guest list for that show. Eddie Pepitone's on that show. Camilla Cleese is on that show. It's going to be fantastic. Mark Brazil from That 70s Show and 30 Rock is on that show. Going to be a great show. Check it out. Tour dates, I got them. Upper Midwest, September 4th, Omaha, Nebraska. September 5th, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. September 6th, Madison, Wisconsin. September 7th, Minneapolis, Minnesota. September 8th, Iowa City. Get your tickets at ronplacone.com. November, we're coming to Australia. Don't wait. Get your tickets. They're going fast, Australia. Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne. Tickets available now. ronplacone.com for all of them. And 2020, we're going to be touring a bunch. So keep your eyes and ears open and email me and tell me where you want to see us. If you want to support the show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including my album. You help me expand the show. You help me expand and get better equipment. I want to do more segments. I want to start that cooking segment. I want to do more interviews. I need your help to get there. Patreon.com/Ron Placone if you are so able. If not, I totally understand. Please like these videos, share these videos, make sure you subscribe. Watch in a separate window to let the ads play through. Don't just do that for me. Do that for all the content creators you know and love. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being the best executive producers in the business. Thank you very much, George Allen, Tom Myers, Michael Karash, Balthazar, George Allen, Balthazar again. And Balthazar says, I was polled 4 times on his cell phone. Wow. Balthazar with the win here. Polled 4 times on his cell phone. That is interesting. Then again, maybe I've been polled more times on a cell phone and I don't realize it because whenever I see a number I don't recognize, I just don't answer it. So I don't know. Maybe that could have happened to me, but that's pretty impressive. 4 times on a cell phone. You guys are awesome. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. You know the drill. Lucy, she's over on the couch. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.